I'll open up the layer with the woman's head, swirl hair lady in Photoshop. And before I try to edit out the background, I'm going to adjust the values to make it easier. Going to the layer window, I'll click on the black and white cookie at the bottom and I'll choose levels. And in the levels, I'll hold down the option key and I'll start with the dark value at the far left underneath that sound wave. And I'll click and drag until I start to see some black pixels appear. And when I let go, I've got a much richer range of values. I'll do the same with the white on the far right. Holding the option, I'll click and I'll drag to where it peaks the second time. And when I start to see some white pixels on the face, I'll let go. Now I want that to be permanent, so I'll go to the upper right hand corner of the layer window and I'll click and I'll choose merge down. Now in order to use the select and mask to eliminate the background, we need to activate the layer. I'll double click on background and I'll click OK. And now I'm going to hit W on the keyboard and I'm going to use the object select tool. I'll click and drag across the whole document. And then I'll go up to select and mask. And I've chosen silhouette from the views, the black and white. In my toolbar, I'll select the second brush from the top and I'll make the brush maybe 30 pixels and I'll start to go straddling the actual hair and the background to bring out the hair at the very edge of her hairdo. Once I have the selection the way I want, I'll scroll down to the bottom of the property window for the select and mask. I'll click on decontaminate colors and I'm going to choose the output to new layer with layer mask. And now we have this result. Now the hair is quite blonde and wispy on the top, so I'm going to make a black silhouette image behind this to define that hair more. I'll start by making a selection that's the same as the head itself. Holding down the command key, I'll click on the layer mask icon in the layer window. I'll put a new layer just below that one. And with my black default on top of my toolbar, I'll use my paint bucket or Option or Alt Delete to darken the hair in the background. Now you'll see the hair has more prominence. Now I'm going to put it into my document. I'll go to Select All, Edit, Copy Merged, and I'll go to the composite and I'll hit Command V or I'll go to Edit Paste. Hitting Command T on the keyboard and then going to the top of the user interface on the option bar, I'll make either the width or the height 75%. And I'll place the head over the collar of the image below. Zooming in, put my layer mask on now, and I'm going to drop the opacity of her face so I can see where I need to edit this. I'll drop it down to 70%, I'll hit B on the keyboard, and with the black on top, leaving my brush at 90% hardness, I'll eliminate collar on the woman's head and I'll return my opacity to 100%. Now that I have the woman's head in place, I'll do the same with the man. Going into Bridge on my folder, I'll select Beard Guy, right click, Open with Photoshop. And the values are pretty good on this. All we have to do is really edit it. Hitting W on the keyboard, I'll use the Object Select and select the whole thing. Now I can see that it didn't do the great job. It left his nose out. I'm going to go to my quick mask mode by clicking on the icon at the bottom of the toolbar. I'll get my brush, and with black on top, I'll reduce the size of my brush and I'll paint his nose into the selection. Clicking back on the quick mask icon, now that I have my selection, I'll go to the Object Select tool one more time, and I'll click on Select and Mask. I'll zoom in on it a bit and I'll start to edit the hair just along the edge. Now that I have his hair and beard edited the way I want, I'm going to kind of clean up spots where I see white where there should be black along the top of the document, and then his neck is missing down below. I'm going to click on the third brush down on the toolbar in the Select and Mask and If I go up to the top of the document now and I start to hold down the Option key and drag in the areas I'd like to see the black return, it'll do so. And then I'll make my brush hardness 100%. Holding down the Option key, I'll paint his neck back in. And I can see with these different views a little bit more accurately what I'd like to do. Going back to silhouette, I'll go down to the bottom of the properties window, choose decontamination, and then output to new layer and layer mask. I'll click OK. And now I'll copy and paste it into the composite document. I'll go to select all and edit copy merged. Go to the composite, Command V to paste. And with this image, I'll also drop the height or the width down to 75%. Putting it into position and rotating it. I'll put a layer mask on. Drop the opacity of the layer to about 70%. Making sure my brush hardness is about 90. We should have something like this. The one last element we need to correct in repairing the photo is where the ribbon is missing on the woman's dress. I'll hit L on the keyboard, selecting the actual photo layer, and I'll make a broad selection on the piece of ribbon directly below. And I'll copy it to its own layer by hitting Command J, and then with the Move tool I'll put it into position. I don't want the redundancy with the shape being the same, so I'll go to Edit, and I'm going to use the Puppet Warp, and I'll plant a couple of points to begin with, and then I'll just change the contour so it's not exactly like the one below. I'll put a layer mask on it, hit B for brush, I'll drop the hardness to maybe 75, and I'll bump up the scale to about 70. With black on top, I'll go in and I'll edit around the perimeter to integrate it back in. I'm going to drop my hardness down even more, maybe to 50, to get a softer transition. And now we're ready to begin the tinting process.